Temporarily. Okay, everybody. Should we do a show?
Yeah, let's do a real quick show.
Now that we are here.
Real quick hour and a half. Let's do it.
Really quick. Let's make it
90
go.
and out.
We'll do what we do.
Yes.
We've already been here an hour trying to get this going. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Starting the show, the real show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 702, recorded on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. The 2019 Prediction Show. Hey, everyone. Tonight we are going to fill your heads with predictions from last year, predictions for this year, and a bit of science news. But first.
Disclaimer. It's a brand new year, a mere babe in the chronological woods, and with a new year come new hopes, which are usually old hopes, dusted off, ironed out, and given a bit of polish, in the hopes that the new year the old hopes will finally be realized. And with each new year, that sense of hopefulness is often framed by winter landscapes in a twinge of uncertainty. With these first cold, shuffling steps into the unknown future, it can be comforting to trace your steps ahead and plan for what's to come. And as with any forward-looking plan, to do so successfully, you must do the thing that you can only do whilst looking forward: predict how the future will unfold. So, on the following episode, we will do just that: prognosticate the path of science yet to come, right here on This Week in Science. Coming up next. That sounds like the speakers on a 1989 Chevy Astro van.
It's so quiet on my end. It's amazing that it's so loud for you.
It was fantastic. Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
And good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to our first show of 2019. A new year. Is everyone full of hope and promises to themselves that they're sure they're not going to break for at least 5 or 6 days?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe 17. That's break your New Year's resolution day, right? It's January 17th, I think.
January 17th.
That's all it takes.
It doesn't take much, honestly. It's people are just, they're ready to, I'm going to be exercising. Never mind. Yeah. It doesn't take much at all. Oh, but let's talk about positive things. This show is going to be full of predictions, all sorts of thoughts about the future and where we're going to be going, and hope for wonderful science. And let's see, I've got a story related to bubbles and brains. Couple of stories there. Bubbles, brains. We'll talk all about it at the end of the show after our prognosticating. But yeah, we're going to talk about our old predictions and see how we did in 2018 and give some new ones for 2019. Justin, did you bring any science tonight?
Was I supposed to?
Yeah. Yeah.
I brought one. Yeah, actually, there is an interesting story about the pulse, the heartbeat of the Sahara, going from lush to desert, and might be some eventually some interesting finds on the pulse of human emigration from Africa as a result of this.
Nice. Very nice. And Blair, did you bring something animal corner-ish?
Yeah, I brought some dinosaur noses, and also, if we have time, something called cuteness aggression.
Cuteness aggression.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that like terrifying bunny rabbits?
It's like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. I just want to eat you up and tear you apart.
Oh, like when I want to eat the babies. Yes.
Yeah, exactly that.
Right. You don't really want to eat the babies, but you want to eat the babies. Okay.
Well,
hope we get to talk
you'll have
about
to
that.
stay tuned to hear exactly if you do.
Tell me about my my
Just because we're on
urges.
Blair, just to pander.
All right. As we jump into the show, I want to remind everyone that you can find us all over the place. You find good podcasts. We've got the TWIS podcast located in the Google podcast portal on the Apple, not iPod anymore, but Apple podcast place, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, all sorts of places. Look for This Week in Science or go to twis.org. where you can find more information about our show and about subscribing. And you can find out about our 2019 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar, because now is the time to make sure you've got a calendar to plan for your future in 2019. But now let's talk about the past. Are we ready to do that for a minute or two?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So in 2018, I said that climate, that there was going to be more extremeness, flooding of low-lying regions, the Arctic would melt, drought and fires in the western U.S., more bad news about coral reefs. We'll see conversations about states' water rights heat up. I was a total pessimist about climate in 2018. But then I was optimistic.
Kind of nailed it with the fires.
I know, right? Kind of nailed a bunch of things. And climate was on everyone's mind this year in multiple ways, with the IPCC report coming out, like making it more of an emphasis on we need to get this done. The national climate assessment coming out. More and more people are standing up and talking about climate and how we have to take a major role in it. And I think my optimistic side last year was saying that people were going to start to learn more about the issues and start to act to make a difference. And I think there are more people talking about this stuff in a positive, action-oriented way. You think?
Yeah, and it hasn't been so much of a come and go kind of fad to discuss. We often have certain kind of fad topics that come and go. There's something that's like this imminent threat, and then a few weeks later people aren't even talking about it, and that was climate change for a long time. But I do feel like in 2018 it was pretty consistent, the communication.
Yeah, I think it was
better.
I think it's good. I think groups like Noki that you're working with are starting, and also Compass, these organizations are starting to get policymakers and scientists together, and also starting to get cohesion around the messages that are going out so that people are hearing more consistent, fact-based messages, which I think is good. Yeah. Good for the story. Let's see. I said CRISPR and gene editing therapy would be big. The guy who trialed a gene therapy for Hunter syndrome would report a successful recovery. So on that, I don't know about the one guy that towards the end of 2017 was getting getting therapy based on zinc finger nucleases. But there were a total of 4 people who were given this particular zinc finger nuclease enzyme treatment. And it was partially successful because nobody died and there weren't really any negative effects that came out of the study, but they weren't really sure if it actually did anything beneficial for the people with Hunter syndrome, if it actually changed their enzyme production that much. So it's kind of there, kind of not. I also said that we will see more development of CRISPR-based CAR-T type therapies for cancer and HIV. And there was more movement on that front. There were some, I think, Washington State researchers or University of Washington researchers who had done some interesting stuff there. And so the CAR-T field is moving forward at an interesting pace for treating cancer as well. I said also, what did I say? Chinese CRISPR trials for HPV treatment would report success before the year's end, because there was a trial that was getting going. And when I looked to see if there had been any news on the trial, there wasn't. Is no news good news? I don't know. But
DVD.
No news. DVD, yeah. But we all know how the other aspects of CRISPR in China have been turning out.
Yeah, this is pretty big.
Yeah, big story. I said in space, the Juno mission would be extended by NASA because it's awesome. Well, it is still going. It just took pictures of volcanoes shooting plumes out of the moon Io that orbits around Jupiter. And I also said that TESS would launch, and TESS is the replacement for the Kepler mission. I thought it would launch successfully and start giving us good data about exoplanets before the end of the year. And it launched successfully. And in December, the first data started coming out. Not that we actually heard about any, there's no papers published. We haven't heard about the science publicly, but the data is coming out and researchers are getting their hands on it to start telling us about exoplanets. That's exciting. I also said the InSight mission would not find little green men living in tunnels beneath the planet's surface, but it would get to Mars in one piece before the end of the year. That happened. No little green men in tunnels. No ticker tape parade for InSight. And then
they had high-rise buildings.
That's right. What else did I say? Someone would launch a successful mission to the moon before the end of the year. That didn't happen. China and India pushed back dates for launches on their missions. I thought that India would get a lander to the moon, but no. And then the Event Horizon Telescope, I was hoping would show us a black hole for the first time. And last episode, I think I was jumping the gun a little bit. I think I mentioned the Event Horizon showing us the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. We have a simulation of that, but we don't have the actual picture of a black hole yet. So I'm thinking that's going to be this year. I'm switching it up. It's going to be this year. I didn't get that one right. AI, I thought would continue to be a lot of talk about the pros and cons of AI, but we wouldn't see much more than chatbots continuing to take over Twitter and robots inhabiting the uncanny valley. Which is very uncanny so far. Self-driving vehicles would begin to rise in numbers, and that has absolutely been come to pass. I also said that, what did I say? I said microbes, that there would be a report of a new class of antibiotics. Microbes would be successfully paired with the immune system to treat disease based on data from tribal people. A new fad diet would hit the public consciousness involving root vegetables from Africa and seasonal meats. I don't think that's happened. And a rogue
the whole
science
keto thing happened this year, though. That was definitely a fad diet. It wasn't that fad diet.
That was last year.
2018.
Yeah, that was last year.
No,
Yes.
17.
Okay,
No, it was 17. We're ketoing all over the place in 17.
Maybe in Davis.
18. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, granted.
And I also said a rogue scientist would develop a way to control politicians with microbes. And while we have discovered a lot about how microbes actually can influence the brain's activity from the gut, we haven't
yet to see any brain activity in a politician.
Yes, pretty much based on the last year for sure. Yeah.
And good night, everybody.
I said in physics, no challenge to the standard model at all would happen. And there was like one possible challenge, but not really. Like, it was basically, I was like, meh, the universe isn't going to change much in 2018. And while physics was pretty big and there were lots of conversations, I honestly don't think it changed the way we look at it too much. We're still like building evidence for the standard model for the most part. And it's just nuancing how we understand what we've got around us. But there's been no huge paradigm shift, which that was interesting. Synthetic biology, no yeast 2.0 or truly synthetic bacteria. There were not. And I said TWIS would continue to bring us live shows every week and at least 2 public shows. We only did one last year, though.
Yeah, we did one.
We only did one. That was...
We did?
Yeah. Shucks. Yeah. Shucks. Only one last year. We're going to keep pushing on that, see what we can do this year in 2019. Yeah, so I think I was half and half for things. Did pretty well in some cases. In other cases, well... Justin, what about you?
I believe all of my predictions came true.
Let's hear them.
I predicted a large unguided man-made object would re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and crash, and that it would most likely crash into the ocean. And as it turned out, a Chinese satellite did crash into the Pacific Ocean. And I think I made some sort of deal about the chances of it hitting somebody being really remote, but also that it could land anywhere. So keep looking up that whole year. It landed harmlessly into the Pacific Ocean, and except for, it's probably toxic and killing whatever things it encounters at the bottom of the ocean. I predicted that the Japanese Space Agency would return to space with its Hayabusa 2 mission, land on an asteroid. This time landing would go off without a hitch, which did happen. But I also then embellished my prediction and said they would find the asteroid to be covered in tardigrades, which I think is still undetermined because there's a return mission. So we still have to wait to see the results.
Gotta wait and see.
That part of the prediction. I said that a discovery would appear to show evidence of early humans hunting mammoths would be turned on its head when the researchers discover that, in fact, the mammoths were hunting the humans. I don't know that we actually found.
I don't believe I saw that one.
Yeah, no.
I don't remember reporting on that one. Microbiome would continue to reveal the way it works to scientists. Eventually, the cure to most illnesses will be addressed not with drugs, but with bugs. And I think last year at least was a pretty good year for probiotics and for using bacteria and viruses as delivery methods for drugs. Mm-hmm. So that's not completely taken over all of medicine with the right bugs. They're still using the right drugs, but with the help of the bugs now. So it's a little bit of a prediction correctness there. That the majority of Floridians would continue to vote for candidates who oppose climate science. This happened. Although I also predicted that the state of Florida would only be slightly larger than the state of Delaware at this point, which I think they've still got a little bit further to go. Also, I predicted that fecal transplants would become so commonplace and the benefits so well known that people would stop washing their hands, and that people would then start to die of stomach viruses. Syndrome. So
unintended consequences.
Thankfully, that one did not. But those were my predictions from the previous year. I had a lot more predictions last year. I have less predictions this year. Maybe the year's not going to make it to the end this year. Maybe I should predict that.
Oh, yikes.
Might
as well.
And Blair. Was that it?
Sorry, I forgot one. I predicted that the New Orleans Saints would win the Super Bowl.
And?
They did not. I'm carrying that one over to this year because I think what I was predicting is how well they would be playing in the current season that's now that led up to the playoffs. So that it turns out 2019, that's sort of throwing a prediction into the recap. But in 2019, the New Orleans Saints sports ball team would win the Super Bowl. And it'll come down to the 9th inning.
Oh, you're going there for a specific prediction. All right. You've done it before. Maybe you can do it again. Who knows? So are those all your predictions that did and did not come true?
From last year, yeah.
From last year. Yes. Okay. And Blair, what were yours from last year?
Yes. Mine, I like to be kind of silly with my predictions. I didn't do so great. So my first was that Sperm would be the new time-release capsule, which will begin clinical trials for cancer treatment. In 2017, we saw a bunch of stories about proof of concept, but nobody shot the trigger on that one. Did not happen this year. Stay tuned on that. I also predicted we will discover a new kind of cephalopod. Well, we discovered a lot of species, particularly in that Academy of Sciences bout of new species. None of them were cephalopods, sadly.
Not a single cephalopod all year?
Not a single cephalopod. I know. Lots of sea slugs, but no cephalopods. I also predicted that tardigrades will be discovered in space, proving them to be the original alien. Not yet. Coffee will be proven.
That's only because Hayabusa needs to have the. It needs to.
That's right. Needs to come back.
You're right.
Hayabusa 2. When it returns, both those our predictions will be correct.
Yeah, it'll just be a year late. So I also predicted that coffee will be proven to be good for you, then bad for you, then good for you again. I kind of did get this one right, but in a funny way. So in 2018, we discovered that coffee helps people work together better. We also found that coffee helps reduce risk of type 2 diabetes, but climate change creates stress for coffee beans. And there's all sorts of discussions and disagreements related to the growing of coffee, in which case you could say that the growing of coffee is not good for us currently. So a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's there. I also said that 2018 would be the warmest year on record. It was not. It was the 4th hottest year on record. But so now the past 4 years are all the 4 hottest years on record. So, you know, not quite right, but close. I said that white nose syndrome treatment would begin in the wild on bats, saving some populations. So again, they haven't quite gotten to the full-blown treatment in the wild yet, but they have refined UV light treatment on white nose syndrome. So they actually are hoping to start doing that 2019. So stay tuned on that.
Cool.
I also predicted that a scientist would run for Congress in 2018 and win. This is a yes, 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 yes. 7 scientists got to Congress in the 2018 election. 3 engineers, 2 medical experts, a biochemist, and a software engineer. I predicted that I would spend another year on TWIS.
You did.
Finding myself astounded at what a coffee shop interview for an internship in late 2011 became. Yes, indeed, as everyone who watched our 700 episodes saw when I got very teary-eyed. And I also predicted that TWIS would cross another state off of our live show map, which we did not. So we have some work to do.
Yeah, we got to get on it.
But haven't we gotten already checked off like most of the good states?
I don't know if that's true.
You've already hit, like, I think most of my favorite. There's like maybe 2 left. But anyway.
Okay. Well, I could do with some more, I think.
I'd love to go do a TWIS in Hawaii if anyone's up for that one.
Oh, I've never been to Hawaii.
So my new life goal after learning that the tallest mountain on the planet is actually not Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain from sea level, but the tallest mountain from the bottom of the ocean up is actually Mauna Kea, which is the big island where there's like observatories and there's a big science effort up there, and you could go from sea level to climb it. So that's maybe my goal is to climb the tallest mountain in the world without actually having to go to 19, 20, 23,000 feet, whatever it is. That doesn't sound fun. And do a TWIS broadcast. Wouldn't that be great?
All of it. I want all of it.
All of it. I want all of it.
I want to wrestle an octopus in Hawaii.
Okay, octopus. Cephalopod wrestling.
Yeah.
Blair just needs to join the Merchant Marines.
I think so.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? Is that? I don't know. If
I don't know.
All right. If you just tuned in, this is This Week in Science. What do we think will happen in 2019? Now is the time for us to give our new predictions. What is happening next? Justin, you want to go first?
Oh, okay, sure. Number 1 prediction, 2019 will bring waves of news about synthetic biological circuits. Well, at first only used in convenient applications to allow biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies to quickly offer a smorgasbord of revolutionary products and cures, synthetic biological circuits will eventually replace all conventional electronics, allowing everyone to remain completely unplugged all the time, as the devices run on enzymes and not electricity. However, you will have to share your lunch with your phone.
Ah!
Number 2, a
You
solar
lick your
system will
phone?
be discovered.
Your phone.
It's like, what's the matter with your computer? It doesn't like the onions you fed it. Got to change its diet. Solar system will be discovered, made up entirely of black holes, complete with an anchoring supermassive black hole where a sun would be, smaller orbiting black holes like planetoids, and even moon-like satellites, though much bigger than a moon, in orbit around those. Stunning part of this discovery. It will be spotted not by a cosmologist with a telescope array, but by a cosmetologist with really good teeth. I don't know why that.
Okay. Good toothed cosmetologist.
Makes no sense, but this is what the crystal ball reveals. Sometimes it's a little cloudy. 2019, time travel is discovered. Not that we will discover how to do time travel in 2019, but we will uncover an ancient tomb of a woman who is verifiably and undeniably of this century. Awkwardly, the discovery comes 5 years before Lisa Randall even conceives of a theory by which she might actually be able to build such a device that propelled her back in time. And number 4, despite all of the evidence to the contrary thus far, 2019 is the year we learned that all sharks are primarily vegetarians.
Yeah.
They just eat a bit of fish on the side. Pescatarians everywhere are emboldened by this news, and there's a noticeable uptick of shark tattoos on people who have never been to sea.
Oh, camaraderie. That's right. Gotta stick with my vegetarian brethren.
That's right.
Those are my predictions of 2019 and the sports ball one.
That's right. You already gave your sports ball prediction.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Moving on up. Blair, do you have predictions for 2019?
I sure do.
Woohoo!
I'm going to start off with a repeat, kind of like how Justin was like, they won't find gravitational waves. They won't find gravitational waves. Or was that you, Kiki? I can't remember. Somebody said it every year.
That was definitely me.
That was Justin.
Until
It was definitely you.
I switched at the right time, though.
You're like, they will.
Oh, and
So
I
am
switched
saying
it.
this year-
I switched at the wrong time. I would always go opposite from
Oh.
Justin just to spite him.
We were
Yeah.
always opposite, and then
Yeah.
I switched it,
Perfect.
and then that year they found it, so I got to be right after all, even though I'd been wrong for like a decade.
Yeah.
Well, even though I'm kind of piggybacking off of something that Justin was talking about earlier, I am keeping up with my tardigrades in space prediction. I think that more likely on Mars, since we found water there, or somewhere else, we will find tardigrades in space. We won't be sure if it's from contamination or if they started out there, but they will be there, which I'm very excited
I
for.
think our prediction. It's interesting that we're triangulating on this prediction, because I think now we have to look to the return of Hayabusa, because this is we've
Sample return.
tardigrade space, and we have to just wait for the return of Hayabusa to confirm.
I still think they might be on Mars,
prediction
but
extension. Oh,
That's
well,
right.
Yeah, of course they're on Mars.
My deep-seated hope is that they're originally from Mars, and the reason they are here is from asteroids. But anyway, my second prediction is that dinosaurs will have to be reclassified as warm-blooded in 2018.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. A national state of emergency will be declared in regards to climate change, just not in the United States, some other nation.
I believe that.
Tesla semi-trucks will go to market and start popping up all over across the country. Spiders will do something or be discovered doing something crazy and unexpected. That was a safe bet, I think. That's my ringer.
Yeah.
Humans will invent a new or overblown food allergy. The new gluten. A CGI human character will star in a film alongside real actors, and we won't be able to tell them apart.
Haven't you
Well, it's
haven't
like,
you done this
Howard
one before?
or Roger Rabbit.
I've done
They've
something
a few of
similar.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, foldable smartphones will hit the shelves and be very short-lived. And very last, TWIS will do an amazing live show somewhere new in the world with a great audience.
Yay! You're like
Very
this.
nice
Good.
prediction.
Very nice.
Can I piggyback one more? I'm
Just
gonna
add
say
another one.
prediction based on
Yeah.
what I'm gonna piggyback. I don't think that dinosaurs are going to be classified as warm-blooded. I think they'll create a new classification, and they will be called cool-blooded animals.
Endoectotherms.
Yeah. Somewhere they're gonna have to come up with another
Lukewarm-blooded. Room temp.
lukewarm-blooded.
Room temp
dinosaur
blooded.
blood.
Yeah.
That's kind of what, isn't that what cold-blooded is? Aren't they just room temp?
Yeah, they are literally room temp. You're right about that, actually. Oh my goodness. Okay, Kiki, what do you have for us?
I have something that
next year.
already came true. 20 half hour ago. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's exciting.
So the Chinese, I mentioned that they had delayed their launch of their Chang'e 4 mission and this mission is to the far side of the moon. Far side of the moon because the moon is tidally locked with the Earth, and so we only ever see the side with the dude in it, right? Man in the moon.
Yeah, the
The lava
face. I always see the
pose.
face.
It's only the face side.
You know,
we
the
don't.
side with the dude in it.
Yeah, not the other side.
The one there with the guy with the sunglasses smoking a pipe.
That's
Telling
right.
the little story.
So we need to go explore the other side of the moon that we don't see. It's a difficult mission because being on the other side of the moon, it can be in a location that is out of radio contact with Earth unless you have a bounce set up. So it's not an easy landing. It's not an easy situation. But, China, they did it. They launched the mission, put a lander on the moon a half hour ago. As of now, the Chang'e 4 probe.
Breaking news.
Yeah, it's aiming to explore a place called Von Karman Crater, and it's located within the South Pole Aitken Basin, SPA Basin, which was thought to have formed from a big asteroid impact early in the moon's history. It is about 2,500 kilometers in diameter, 13 kilometers deep, one of the largest impact craters in the solar system. Largest, deepest, oldest basin on the moon. And so, being that it's so old, they're thinking that they're going to get some mantle rocks, moon mantle rocks that were exposed from the impact. But they did it already. So I was going to say, hey, check it out tomorrow, but it's already done and they're collecting data. And so expect to hear more from this mission moving into the future. 2019 is going to be big. I think the Indian mission to the moon, the Chandrayaan mission, is going to launch hopefully at the end of January. It'll launch successfully because I'm an optimist and it would really not be great if after all those delays over and over again, it didn't work well. So I'm just going to be optimistic and say the Indian mission to the South Pole of the moon is going to be amazing. We're going to learn lots. LIGO Virgo, from which we have gained all sorts of appreciation for gravitational waves over the last couple of years. You know what we're going to get from them? More black hole mergers.
Time travel? The aforementioned time travel?
I don't know if we're going to get the time travel from those gravitational waves, but I think we're going to get some interesting information on big black hole mergers and little black hole mergers and medium-sized mergers. See how they all work together and stitch together our picture of universe, how it all works. I also think that I'm really optimistic about the space industry. I'm not seeing lots of bad going on here. We're going to see a successful SpaceX crew capsule launch without crew in it. It's going to successfully dock with the International Space Station, and it will be okayed to bring manned missions to the space station without keeping the U.S. reliant on Russian rockets.
Do you know what they call that?
Back and forth. What?
The ultimate autopilot.
The ultimate autopilot. Autopilot. Like auto wash. Okay. Stem cell therapies. The companies that are giving out therapies that potentially blind people and aren't necessarily proven. And it's kind of like they go, hey, these can solve anything. Yeah, they're going to scream and cry and punch a little bit this year because of the FDA crackdown as their regulations kick in and cause some growing pains for the stem cell therapy industry in the United States. Probably sending more people to Mexico and
but
Italy.
Is it the stem cell therapy industry, or is it are you talking about the faux science?
No, it's the stem cell therapy. It's the clinics that pop up all over the place, and based on very little evidence supporting them, they say, "Oh, if we take these stem cells, these adipose tissue stem cells, which are stem cells in your fat, we can put them in your eye, and they'll fix your eye problems. We could put them in your knee; they'll fix your knee problems. We could put them in your brain; they'll fix your brain problems." It's like, why do you think these adipose tissue stem cells can do all these things? And yes. So I think there's going to be. I think that we've already seen people lose their sight because of some of these clinics and working under fault without regulation. So not following proper sterilization procedures and methodologies, and
so I guess
we need quality control is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. Like, I don't think I consider that a stem cell industry. Like, that's not what, any more than I would consider any other sort of fraudulent claim of a nutritional or health beneficial thing to be actual medicine or nutrition.
Right. It's the actual science. I mean, if you talk to stem cell scientists, the actual science is moving forward, but a lot of these therapies that people are jumping in on are not proven. At least there's not a lot of evidence behind them. Not yet. But anyway, the FDA is starting to regulate. And we'll see what happens. I think there's going to be kicking and punching involved. I also think there's going to be a kerfuffle between China and the rest of the world regarding CRISPR use in humans. I think
that's pretty guaranteed.
Yeah, I think China has said, "Oh yeah, it's not legal in our country to CRISPR humans, or at least not babies." But maybe they don't have as much regulation as the United States and some other countries, and so I think there's going to be a little tete-a-tete, little ethical battle that goes on about how we use this CRISPR into the future.
Totally disagree. I mean, there may be lip service, but it's like, don't exploit other people's intellectual proprietary information for. You can't just knock off a product and then relabel it as your own just because you got, like, it doesn't matter. Like, China is its own giant superpower country. Mm-hmm. They don't need to answer to the rest of the world, and they will not. And they're going to do what they choose to do. The kerfuffle will just be in name only. And it's, and it's in a weird way, I think it's okay. I really do.
Kerfuffles are all right. They're good.
I don't mean the kerfuffle part. I mean the fact that they are on a different trajectory that we may or may not approve of. It's, one of the things that the Star Trek world showed us is how all these different planets and different cultures arrived at different ways of dealing with different things and have different aspects about them that are very significant and very cartoonish. But all they were to begin with was an illustration of a world of nations trying to get together and get along in the first place. So if there is a planet China, in which, they CRISPR the next generation of their children, right? It's no different than if we did run into an alien race on another planet that only CRISPRs their children and never does otherwise.
Except we're the same species, though, so it's a little more
different. We are now, right?
And it's going to be completely different.
Touche.
Okay, moving on to finish my list. I think that we will have mosquitoes with gene drive to limit reproduction released into the wild in 2019, probably in Florida, wherein mass hysteria will ensue. What have you done? No! CO2 capture, carbon dioxide capture is going to see a major development. I think there's going to be a major step forward by a company or a technology that will enable more efficient carbon dioxide capture in 2019. And that's going to get people excited about the possibility of being able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, inciting them to become active in the process as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, right? Is that there needs to be some sort of good news for people to be able to accept the reality of climate change, right? That's part of this whole conversation of as long as the news is only bad, people are going to keep ignoring it. But as soon as there are solutions, there are potential, there's movement on a larger scale. I think that's one of the reasons Tesla's so successful. People are starting to see potential realities that don't include climate change and daily gas mask wearing all in the same sentence, right? So there needs to be this idea that there's an out for people to want to talk about it regularly. And I think this is a big part of it. There's making less, but there's removing what's in there because there's a latency of 10,000 years. So definitely need to pull it out.
Yes.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the way that we do it in 2019, because I now have a prediction that I just saw through the crystal ball, is by creating a gene drive in a highly efficient carbon capture algae that plummets the world towards an ice age by removing too much of the carbon from our atmosphere, thus removing the thermal blanket.
Right. That's not good. You got to have a little CO2.
Yeah.
Don't remove the thermal blanket. I like thermal blankets. They keep me warm. Aha. All right, everybody. My final prediction is that this is going to be another great year for This Week in Science. I mean, how can we go wrong with that one? I will at least get one right next year. Right?
That's right.
At least get one right there.
No specifics about what kind of year it's going to be.
No, it's just going to be great.
It's just going to be great.
It's just going to be great.
Perfect. Perfect.
Do I have to go into more details?
No.
It's pretty safe because I can't remember in the, how many years? 13, 14, 20 years that we've been doing this show, that I can't remember a single episode where we went on the air and went, unfortunately, due to a lack of progress on the scientific front this week, we have nothing to report. We'll try. We'll see you next week. Hopefully something will happen. And if not, we'll see. We're going to take the break. We're going to take 6 weeks off and wait for some stories to accumulate. Not very likely in this field.
Yeah, not so much in this field. So, should we take a break at this moment in time? Give ourselves a little moment.
Tuned in. You have arrived at the break, where there will be some messages, followed by further content of the show.
That there will. We'll be back in one moment with more science. We'll be back just a moment with more This Week in Science. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to This Week in Science. We are so glad that you're here with us for another episode, and we would love your help to keep the show going. Can you help keep us going for one episode, a month, the whole year? We would love to have you be a part of the TWIS production minion family. Yes, help us keep the show going. One way you can do that is by heading over to TWIS.org. That's right. Head right over to TWIS.org. When you get there, there's a wonderful button to pre-order a calendar. Well, it's not just pre-ordering, it's actually ordering a calendar. They are in supply right now. TWIS 2019 calendars, hand-drawn by Blair from Blair's Animal Corner, can give you the updates that you need for your science all year long. When's TWIS? Oh, look, it's Wednesday nights. It's going to help you out, really, if you just, if you can't keep your weeks or nights straight, this will help. The calendar is full of hand-drawn art, beautiful pictures that Blair has put together. Wonderful stuff. $20 goes to support TWIS. $20 plus shipping and handling goes to support TWIS. You help us out by ordering a calendar, and you get an awesome calendar, which is pretty awesome. Another way to help TWIS out is to donate. If you scroll down the page, you can donate by clicking on yellow buttons. These yellow donate buttons take you to PayPal, where you can donate using PayPal. If you aren't into PayPal, you can click on our Patreon link. The Patreon link will take you to our Patreon community, where you can click on the red button to become a patron. Become a patron and choose the amount of your choosing that you can afford for every month. It charges you once a month. And you can choose the amount once a month that you want to support us. $10 a month, and you will be able to have us say thank you to you by saying your name at the end of every show. That's right. I'll say thank you to you at the end of every show. If you want to do that, there are many other levels, whatever you can support. They all have fun gifts related to them. So I hope that you consider joining us in this Patreon community and helping out a little bit by donating and supporting in an ongoing fashion. I mean, if you can't do an ongoing fashion, click on that PayPal link at twis.org, and that'll enable you to help us out once, amount of your choosing, and it's just an easy way to do it. The Patreon is a set it and forget it so that it's continuous and you can keep helping us out if you keep listening to the show. We hope that you enjoy it. Additionally, we hope that you enjoy that TWIS Animal Corner calendar, and we hope that you will subscribe. Click on the subscribe button at twis.org to be able to join us every week. Have it download to your device on iTunes, Google Play, or through YouTube. So I think it's about time to get back to the show. Oh yeah, what was I going to say? I can't think because my nose wants to sneeze. Thank you for all of your support. Every single one of you. We couldn't do it without you.
Shows the way
Is that too loud? Good.
Put on a pair of goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see. The answers lie somewhere within this scatter plot. First assumptions were correct. Disprove the rest. It's hot. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need. Put on a pair of
And we're back with more This Week in Science. We are back, and we hope that you are enjoying the show. I have a letter to read for you this evening. A letter from a longtime minion, Ed Dyer. He wrote in, and I've kind of put this into our what has science done for me lately section because of all of the content of this. But he wrote us in to tell us about his predictions for 2019. So I would love to let you know what Ed thinks will happen this year. He says the Event Horizon Telescope will create the first actual detailed picture of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. I think that's going to happen this year too. Fingers crossed. I'm right there with you. Cell-based vaccines will lead to a universal flu vaccine. And I think that's interesting. While I don't know if the cell-based vaccines those are going to be the things that do it, I think that we are on the track for a universal flu vaccine, and it just seems like we're getting there faster and faster. The only issue is making sure that it really works. So hopefully at least clinical trials will really get going for that this year. That would be great. Yes. A genetically modified horse will be born that will be faster and stronger than its counterparts. Scientists in Argentina rewrote the genome of cloned horses. The first foals are expected in 2019. Wow. I want to see that. Yikes. Is it going to be stronger, better, faster? Oh my gosh. I need to know. The flow of pollutants into our rivers, lakes, and oceans will increase, and record-breaking algae blooms and fish die-offs will occur. I don't like that one, Ed.
No.
I don't like it.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Justin, where's your video?
I don't know. It didn't come back. Like I turned it so as to not leave a empty microphone, and now I'm just a disembodied voice.
Yeah, maybe
Been
if you closed the browser the browser window and then the link that I sent you and opened it up again.
I'll try that. All right,
Try it.
be back.
Okay, come on back. Humans will become increasingly reliant on AI computer models doing research and AI technology in our homes. I don't need AI in my home. I want to be
I'm
reliant
a heavy
on
pass
AI.
on that for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I see more and more people bringing it into the homes. We'll see where that goes. That's interesting. And he says an AI will emerge that begins to act solely on its own. A first step toward world robot domination. Ooh, creepy. Rose-colored glasses sales will plummet. Tinfoil hat sales will skyrocket.
Sure.
Oh, that's too bad. That's the kind of sad one because it sounds as though fear taking over, optimism decreasing. I will buy everybody a pair of rose-colored glasses. Let's stay optimistic, everyone.
Hey, TWIS already got me some rose-colored glasses, so
right. We can work on that. Yeah. And then he ends this note by saying, Dr. Obi-Wan Kiki, Jackson Skywalker, Imperial Princess Blair, save me, TWIS team. You're my only hope. Ed, thank you so much for writing in. It's always a joy to hear from you and your thoughts on science. I know that you follow things avidly, and so it's great to hear what you think. So thank you for writing in and sharing your thoughts with us. everyone, remember, now that we're going to be getting back into the groove of things with our regularly scheduled programming every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time, somewhere on the internet, we will need your input on what science has done for you lately. What has science done for you lately? Tell us about it. Send us a letter. You can send me a note on Facebook. That's the Facebook This Week in Science page. So just facebook.com/This Week in Science. Or you can email me at Kirsten, Kirsten, at thisweekinscience.com. And we will fill this segment of the show with your notes. So moving on. We talk about some science.
Yes.
Let's bring it.
Yeah. So I was going to talk maybe a little bit about the Chinese lander, but I'm not going to do that anymore because I already did that. It's always funny when you're dealing with technical issues and science happens.
Yes.
Science happens. Like,
it was
oh,
meant to be. Yeah.
thank you, chat room, for alerting me to this breaking news. I forgot to say it was because of people in the chat room, Dave Friedel and Fada. I saw a link. I saw that it had happened. So anyway, aside from the Chang'e 4 moon landing that's happened, scientists at Yale have created a drinkable chemical cocktail that reversed neuronal damage from prions, little misfolded proteins in the brain that cause things like Kuru and Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease and are also implicated in Alzheimer's, and also restored memories in mice.
No.
Yeah, so they
Huh?
they had mice with this with the big misfolded protein issue in the brain that is linked to Alzheimer's disease, and these genetically modified mice who had been modified this way to have a version of Alzheimer's disease, they gave them this drinkable protein cocktail, and it reversed their memory loss.
That's insane. Not just that you could rebuild the brain, but recuperate memories. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really promising, and it's an interesting idea of how they went about it. The research team that's at Yale, they published in the journal Cell Reports. The senior author, Stephen Strittmatter, said that they were interested in finding molecules that would maybe have a therapeutic effect on the Alzheimer's network. And Alzheimer's occurs as there's an accumulation of plaques and there's destruction through immune system responses, and the synapses get mucked up and they don't work together well anymore. And so he and another research scientist, Eric Gunther, they screened a bunch of compounds looking for molecules that might mess up the prion protein interaction with the Alzheimer's protein, which is, I was messing the name earlier, amyloid beta. And they found this old antibiotic that looked like it might be a good candidate, which I find really interesting. But it was only active after it decomposed down to a really short protein sequence, this little polymer. And they found that polymer and a bunch of related polymers that seemed to have this benefit and then also pass through the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain. And so the fascinating thing is that this is not injectable. This is something drinkable. And so if they can show that it is, that it works in people, this could be a really interesting therapy moving into the future. Kind of an interference therapy. These prion proteins get in the way, things get misfolded, and it's this cascading effect of immune system damage that occurs. And then if you can interfere with it at some point, it stops the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really amazing. I mean, the big thing about Alzheimer's that makes it so scary and such a bummer is that it's irreversible.
Yeah.
They tell you that over and over. Whatever you've lost. It's gone.
Yeah. So this is
maybe not so.
Yeah, and it's not potentially not invasive. This is if the drink can be drunk. And it-
Insane. That's
Yeah.
like, just give that to everybody now. Just,
it's just everybody's morning shake. That's right.
yeah, just if you were gonna get Alzheimer's, guess what? Now you're not.
Yeah, and so a collaborating team at Dartmouth University said that they had a positive response as well when they they didn't give it to animals, but when they delivered the cocktail to cells that had Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, which is another prion-caused disease, which is also these misfolded proteins in the brain. So really interesting, potentially positive result. Where did Justin go?
I'm still here. My camera refuses to come back online.
Refuses on your end?
Oh, wait. Do you have to hit something? Oh, you have to invite me back into the thing or click a thing.
No, as long you're here.
Didn't you have to do that the first time? Like,
I see you there. Look, there you are.
Hello.
Okay, your video is working there. That's what's not working. Okay, I see. This is something that I'll take out of the okay, box. I'm gonna say box 3. And is that you? No. I'll say Jackson.
Huh?
No.
Well,
Work.
I can do a story anyway, even as a disembodied, faceless voice floating through the ether.
Yeah.
I still retain all of the things that makes me me. This is why I have the standing no plug order, people. I don't really need a body or a face or an image or a moving mouth in sync or not in sync.
Yeah, let's do these stories. Let's go through it. Can we finish the show in a half hour? Do it.
So this is actually a pretty big deal of a story. If I find it and get it to come up here. So this is where was this? This is MIT. Researchers analyzed dust deposits off the coast of West Africa over the last 240,000 years. And they found that the Sahara and North Africa in general has swung between wet and dry climates about every 20,000 years. And this pendulum is mainly driven by changes to Earth's axis as the planet orbits the sun. And why this is interesting is that every once in a while, and trying to recombobulate the history of humanity and its exodus from Africa, we find that there's always outliers. There's these sort of widely dispersed groups throughout the Levant, and then sometimes something's like, oh, we got to push it back 20,000 years when the people left, or 50,000 years when the people left. And so there's all kinds of there's a cave, and Israel's Missilea cave has been dated to 177 to 194,000 years ago with complete modern human teeth. So that alone, that was from, when was that? That's January, the beginning of 2018. And that pushed back the Exodus by about 50,000 years just in that one find. And there was others throughout the Levant and throughout the area. So now understanding that there's this 20,000 year swing, which would have turned the desert into a lush, fertile ground for wildlife or for plants, for people to wander about in and just draw them further north again. And then to cut it off and sort of turn it into a desolate wilderness through which no sane human would want to travel. You can give kind of why it is that we've gone through these fluxes of trying to figure out why this is 20,000 years over here, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years separated from when we think this one event came. And part of why we have always assumed that it was one event too is because of the genetic evidence. showing that it's largely one genetically non-diverse group that exited Africa. However, if that group that kept exiting every 20,000 years or so was from the same group who was living just south of that region the entire time, it would continue to be not that genetically diverse a group if it was being pulled, if the same sample of humans in Africa kept getting pulled out every 20,000 years. So it's a pretty exciting find, really, because previous to this, the thought was that they knew that this cycle took place, but the thought that was that it was about every 100,000 years, which would sort of more explain why there seemed to be this one exit of emigration from the continent to other places. Now that we understand that this is a much more frequent event, still every 20,000 years, and frequent in the time span of planets and evolution, that sort of thing, we can sort of now piece together some of those outliers that seemed not to fit with the model that we had constructed, and now line up rather nicely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice when things line up neatly after 20,000 years, 100,000 years. First, they don't line up. Measure it again. Find the evidence again. Yeah. Are we doing an animal corner this evening?
Sure, we can do a truncated animal corner. That's a pun on my story.
Okay.
Is it about elephants?
Dig into your science trunk, Blair.
Okay. So
She was waiting for the bumper music. Is there no bumper music?
I was waiting for the bumper music. That was funny. I was just like, okay, here we go. So
Let's animal corner.
Yeah. There you go. See, fixed it. So ankylosaurs, they're those really cool dinosaurs about the size of a hippopotamus that has the spikes on their back, and then they have the kind of like the mace-shaped tail, the ball with the spikes right on the edge of their tail. So they, a fossil of an ankylosaur, of actually two different types of ankylosaurs, has been discovered that might explain to us why, and we were talking about this a couple weeks ago on the show, why dinosaurs could be so large and live in a warm climate. So we know that large animals often avoid overheating by being warm-blooded. So we know that that they're able to sweat, they're able to pant, they're able to do things that can release heat, but cold-blooded animals can't do that. And so their large bodies could retain heat really well, but they couldn't release it. So this heat shedding problem left lots of questions about large dinosaurs in general. And they wanted to look at fossil evidence of their noses. So this is from New York Institute of Technology, College of Osteopathic Medicine, and Arkansas State University. They have a new theory that they have an intricate cooling system in their snouts. Their nose has what appears to be a built-in air conditioner. So in mammals, in warm-blooded animals, we are used to this because mammal and bird noses have nasal turbinates. They have these little, very delicate bone curlicues that nasal receptors and a very vascularized tissue folds over. So all these extra folds in their nose allows for heat and cooling exchange and for moisture exchange in their nose. So they didn't see nasal turbinates in these fossils. They used CT, computed tomography scanning, and a powerful engineering modeling approach called computational fluid dynamics to look to do simulations of how air moves through the nasal passages of these two different ankylosaur species, the what they call hippo-sized Panoplosaurus and the larger rhino-sized Euplocephalus. So both of these ankylosaurs, the research, these simulations on these skulls found that they did not have turbinates as far as they could tell. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a second. And they had longer coiled noses. So it's very weird. It actually, they liken it to a crazy straw for children. It's this kind of curly-Q corkscrew pattern, their nasal passages. So what they saw was that the shape of the nose, this curly-Q crazy straw nose shape, actually act as an air conditioner, just like nasal turbinates do. They stuck short, simple noses in their snouts, and then they had these curly Q snouts, and they found that heat transfer rates dropped by over 50% when you had the normal straight passageway. When they put blood vessels reconstructed next to them based on bony grooves and canals, they found rich blood supply running right next to these nasal passages. So hot blood from the body could travel through, transfer. Obviously, evaporation of moisture in those passages cooled the blood on their way to the brain. So this may have been the crux to the evolution of large dinosaurs. Now, here is my caveat that they did not mention in this study that I will just quickly state, which is that nasal turbinates are basically made out of if like paper and glass had a baby. So they are the most delicate thing. Like you look at a nasal turbinate and it shatters and it looks like it was never there. So I understand that the shape of this nasal passage is. However, I am not convinced there are zero turbinates in any dinosaurs because they wouldn't last. They just wouldn't survive. It would be almost impossible to find a fossilized turbinate that's that old. I don't know. I feel like the likelihood is stacked against you that you would be able to find them because they are just so delicate. But that being said, we found a lot of dinosaurs.
Could have been both in tandem.
I'm saying that it sounds like it would be weird to not have both.
Mm-hmm.
But that would also stack the cards for warm-blooded dinosaurs. So there we are. Yes. And can I real quick tell you about cuteness aggression?
Hot-blooded. Yeah, I got some more stories too, but yes, just do it.
I'll just be real quick. So when
don't be so aggressive about it, Blair.
When people encounter, just too much cuteness, the result can be something called cute aggression. This is a psychologist in the Graduate School of Education at University of California, Riverside. About half of adults have these thoughts where they think, I just want to crush it, or I want to squeeze it until it pops, or I want to bite it. When people feel this way, it's no desire to cause harm. They are an involuntary response to being overwhelmed by positive emotion. So I don't want to hurt it. I just want it. I want to eat it. I want to bite it. So they actually recorded electrical activity of the brains from 54 adults, and they found that it was something that they're calling oh my gosh, where is it? It's a response to too much positive emotion. Dimorphous expression of positive emotion. So you have so much positive emotion from the puppies or whatever it is that your body is trying to compensate so that you can function. And they're doing that by flooding your body with aggression. So they liken it to crying when you're super happy, like at a wedding or when a baby's born, or laughing when you're nervous. So you're basically just keeping your body from short-circuiting on one emotion by releasing another. So if you ever feel like aggressive or you have a violent urge around things that are very cute, it's normal. If you act on those urges, it's not normal. That's what this study tells us. So
yeah, and I can imagine, these things are these occur very close together in areas of the brain, and neurotransmitters can cross wires potentially or activate multiple centers. Maybe if these nuclei are, co-located together, and you've got stuff in the thalamus and you've also got the amygdala there, and it's just overwhelming release. And it's emotion. It's emotion, not a particular emotion. It is just emotion. And
they found it was actually it was mostly two areas of the brain. It was the reward center and the emotional area of the brain. So these two areas kind of
thalamus.
firing very intensely just to keep your brain from shutting down. They're just like, throw something opposite in there. Oh, I know, aggression.
This is I guess why you aren't actually supposed to leave young children alone with kittens or puppies or any sort of baby animal, because they will hug them to death.
They don't know how to control their emotions yet.
No,
Yeah.
they haven't figured out the control. So there's like, I love that kitten so much. Let's hug it and love it and oh, baby. Fluffy face. And then next thing you know, you gotta get
It's a
them in
process in your brain.
It is. Absolutely. Cuteness aggression. It's normal. You know what is not normal, but is very interesting? Some string theorists have come up with a new idea to explain dark energy, which, as you know, we don't really understand. It's at the root of our expanding universe. Or is it a root cause? Maybe it's an emergent property. And according to some researchers from Uppsala University, they published in Physical Review Letters on a new concept for how it's a new concept, but even they in their paper say this is going back to an old idea from early 19th century thoughts, but even before string theory, but people didn't really have the ways to explain it so well. But this is related to string theory. The universe consists of tiny vibrating strings, and these little strings are folded up, and that's basically extra dimensions in those folded up strings in there. Well, the theory says that there may be more spatial dimensions than 3 or the 4, including time, that we understand from every day. And so their new model proposes that our universe is at the edge of an expanding bubble in an extra dimension. So we're on the surface of a bubble that's expanding and growing, and it's an extra dimension that has a bubble in it that's being blown out. Kind of like, what happens when you get the, weak parts of your aorta or your arteries, little problems in the wall, and you get little bubbling. Yes, we are the bubbling in a wall of another dimension. And
a 4-dimensional bubble? I don't...
It's emergent, and the dark energy is the emergence of that expansion of the bubble.
And what a bubble it is.
Yeah. I mean,
no bubble like
the
home.
thing is,
I like bubbles.
somewhere between the analogy and the equation solving process, there's a problem of communication.
Yeah.
Right? There's a breakdown in the ability to transmit the model's showings to face hole wordy things that people can comprehend with their ear holes.
Right.
You're saying there's a better
way to explain it.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough
less
though,
yucky
because
analogy to be had.
No, it's tough because you're not using the intuitive physical universe in the modeling, and so you have to then translate that into some sort of intuitive sounding metaphor or analogy for what the non-intuitive physics is illustrating. And so I mean, it's too though. We're talking about the expansion and gravitational effects and all of these sorts of things that come with it. And there's been lots of conversation about this being an emergent property of something else. But it is a little bit of the God of the gap, because if it's the emergent property, then what is it emerging from? And in this case, at least they gave a thing behind that, which is we're on the bubble of another expanding dimension. But where is that
Mhm.
dimension? And why is it expanding? And why is it bubbling? And then it's
There you
just
go.
another thing
It's
that you
just
don't know.
another rabbit hole. But I love
Right.
I love the sentence here though. In this context, the cosmology we see as 4D observers is not due to vacuum energy, but rather arises as an effective description on a dynamical object embedded in a higher dimensional space.
So, and I think that this is an idiotic thing to say.
We're a blister on the surface.
No.
It's like we're a pizza, right? It's a pizza, and we're like the cheese bubble on the crust.
That's right.
Delicious fried cheese bubble on the crust.
But I think when you hear something along the lines of higher dimensional, what you also have to call this is a placeholder for there's a parameter that we don't understand. There's that we don't have access to measure. Is really the when you hear there's an extra dimension, it's like okay, I'm trying to come up with an analogy. I put $1 into the machine and 95 cents came out. There's another dimension to what took place other than my dollar not being whole now, but I don't have the 5 cents and I don't know where it went. Okay. Yeah. Like there's an element of having to infill something to be responsible for, but not being able to measure or define it with any sort of definitive repetitive. So yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
It's interesting if it can make a prediction, right? I mean, this is where we keep circling back to this. Yes. And it may actually be able to make predictions because it's going to be a mathematical model based on a number of parameters of the world that has been very well, the universe that has been very well modeled. And it's not just making up new physics, it's basing off of and taking a new angle to take on something. So it will still be able to make predictions that will work because of all the other physics that are involved. But at some point within its own model, it'll be able to pose a question to itself that it cannot itself answer within that model, which is true of all models.
Right. And so then we look for evidence in our universe that we can measure, that we can fit into the model, see how it matches up. You know, I love the idea. I mean, we've talked before about gravity. I think it was Lon Makes in the Twitch chat room is saying, gravity is the emergent property. Well, I kind of like totally. The idea of these forces that we have ascribed. Oh, there's got to be a particle related to it. There's got to be something that has this force. And some things, yes, absolutely. They do carry that. They're the force carrying things in the universe. But I don't think that all the things necessarily have to have their own particles. And if we do ascribe to these higher dimensional aspects of our universe, then there very well are emergent properties at play that can't be explained by a particle in our universe, but are explained by higher dimensional forces acting on the universe. So we'll look for those things. Again, researchers, go look for it.
Right, but why are we still looking for dimensionality? It's just another way in which something can move. Is all it can be. You know, you can interpret it just that. It's a way something can move without space-time.
Yep.
Yeah, which is right, but it's that thing that you can't, if you aren't of the stuff of which it is made, you're
not going to know it. How are you going to find it?
Right. How do you interact with a thing that is not able to move within your 4-dimensional world, and you're not able to interact with it in any way, and yet you're going to discuss something about it? It's a tough job physicists have.
It is.
I do not
theoretical, definitely harder. Experimental, let's get some numbers in there. Things that are being described currently: Ultima Snowman, or Ultima.
Oh! Is this the red snowman?
The red snowman, yes. So we've talked previously about the New Horizons mission that passed by Pluto, took amazing pictures, gave us information about that, not a planet, that we had never known about it before. Some wonderful information. And it on New Year's Day, the mission passed by Ultima Thule. This is a Kuiper Belt object with the nickname Ultima Thule. These images were taken from as close as 17,000 miles, which really seems very far
really
away. But
that
it seems
really
so
close.
Yeah, it's it's close, but not close. Cosmologically,
If something
the
came
pictures,
by, 17,000 miles. If something flew by the Earth,
he would be
17,000 miles,
worried.
that's buzzing us. That's
Yeah.
buzzing the planet at that
Absolutely, yes. So they found it to measure 19 miles in length, 31 kilometers in length, and it is what they call a contact binary, which is where the snowman reference comes from. It looks like there's one bigger spherical object that came in contact with a smaller spherical object, and then they just kind of liked each other, and now they're together. Together in space.
So another. By the way, in case that you don't have the picture in your head, it might look very much at home as the cap for a hitch on the back of a rather crude pickup truck.
Really?
Yeah, kind of looks like that too.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying
on the side.
Ah, yes, sideways snowman. You could do it that way. It could also be considered BB-8. Very much like I like thinking it's like BB-8.
No.
It's like a snow. We're in the winter time here in the United States. It's like a snowman, okay? And the spheres they think joined as early as 99% of the way back to the formation of the solar system, colliding no faster than two cars in a fender bender. So cars going, 20, 30 miles an hour, maybe even less. Little fender bender. They bumped into each other and it stuck and they've been around. And so they are hoping to get some higher resolution on these images, and data is going to continue to arrive, and we will learn more about this little planet. Like at first, it was a black and white image, just looked kind of rocky and like a snowman. But now, color has been added by the multispectral visible imaging camera, combining the near-infrared red and blue channels, allowing us to see it as a reddish object, which I think is interesting. What is on its surface? Let's find that out. And then I wanted to shut the show down, as it is our prediction show. I would like to shut the show down with some ideas from Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov in 1983 was asked to predict our world in 2019.
Which is very strange, is it not? That they would pick 2019, because this is not as specifically significant or roundish, or like they could have said
35 years. 35 years.
Okay,
They said
but they
in
could have gone
83.
2020, and we'd be doing this spiel next year. But I think it's very interesting that they picked 2019 to give the predictions. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And so this was the idea came from the number of years since 1949, when George Orwell's 1984 was first published. And so it was kind of that idea of the 35 years into the future. It was published in The Star back then. And he went on to say some really interesting ideas about nuclear war, computerization, and space utilization. And his big fear is that we would possibly not get out of the nuclear crisis between the United States and the Soviet Union. And he assumed that he was worried about that, but he said, hey, I don't want to talk about misery that would come from that. So let's assume there's no nuclear war and carry on. He totally predicted the rise of computers in business, in personal use, and that humans across the board would be reliant on them. He absolutely predicted that, and the complexity of society would fall in with that. He also suggested that that we would get to a point where jobs would disappear because they would become routine and clerical and assembly line, and so we would end up with a life. Many people would end up living lives of leisure.
Right. So he was absolutely correct in the first half of that, but underestimated the ability for corporatism to only put that in the hands of a very few.
Very few, exactly. He said that a change in the nature of education would take place and that people must be made computer literate, saying that it would completely change society. And there would be, by the year 2019, the transition from those not born in the computer era and those being born in the computer era would almost be complete. And that the generation of transition would be in the process of dying out. There'll be a new generation growing up who will have been educated into the new world. It is quite likely that society then will have entered a phase that may be more or less permanently improved over the situation as it now exists for a variety of reasons. The one reason, he would think that people would be working to reduce population growth. Well, I don't think that people are actively working to do that, but populations are not growing as quickly around the globe in some places.
Still growing though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can these things coming up here. I just hope. Second, the consequences of human irresponsibility in terms of waste and pollution will become more apparent and unbearable with time, and attempts to deal with this become more strenuous. And so by 2019, advances in technology will place tools in our hand that will help accelerate the process whereby the deterioration of the environment will be reversed.
So
we're working on that.
True.
Solar panels. We've got wind technology. We've got
the ocean arrays.
Ocean rays, desalination
on vehicles.
We have emissions. Yes,
in EPA. We have a lot is positive has come.
Absolutely. The world effort that must be invested in this and in generally easing the pains of the transition may, assuming the presence of a minimum level of sanity among the peoples of the world, again, not a safe assumption, he says, weaken in comparison the causes that have fed the time-honored quarrels between and within nations over petty hatred and suspicions. In short, there will be increasing cooperation among nations and among groups within nations, not out of any sudden growth of idealism or decency, but out of a cold-blooded realization that anything less than that will mean destruction for all. By 2019, then, it may well be that the nations will be getting along well enough to allow the planet to live under the faint semblance of a world government by cooperation, even though no one may admit its existence.
Yeah, it's called the internet.
We have the internet, we have the IPCC, we have the UN. It's not totally working. We have the World Health Organization. And these things aren't absolutely working, but we're on a track. And I want to come into 2019 with an optimism that people are starting to look at the world around us and realize it's our place to protect our place in this world and to leave a better world for the generations to come. So on these words from this wonderful science fiction author, Isaac Asimov, I will leave us for the end of our episode. Yeah. All right. Time to finish this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that you enjoyed our predictions. Let us know if you enjoyed them or did not. Get yourself a TWIS calendar. Go to TWIS.org to get yourself one of those. And also, I want to say thank you to people. I need to say thank you to a lot of people here. I want to say thank you to Fada for helping in the social media arena for the show, helping with show notes for the show, and helping us to keep our chat rooms decent and making sure communications are happening when they need to happen. It's very helpful. I want to thank Identity 4 for recording the show. Also, I'd like to thank Gord McLeod. And who else is over there in the chat room? Goldazader, are you over there? Anyway, in the chat rooms, the people who help manage the chat room, keep everything running smoothly so that we can have a community of people who can chat. I would also like to thank those of you this evening who made the jump over to Twitch on a moment's notice so that you could watch the show. I do appreciate you coming over to someplace that maybe for some of you is not your usual thing. You're not your usual platform, and that means a lot. I would also like to thank our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Paul Disney, Richard Onemus, Ed Dyer, Stu Pollock, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tony Steele, Craig Landon, Mark Mazzaros, Jack, Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill K, Bob Calder, Time Jumper 319, Eric Knapp, Richard, Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Aiden Jeff, Dave Friedel, Daryl Zach, Daryl, you have to tell me how to say your name. Sorry. Majzrak.
I can't
help.
see, otherwise I'd help you out, Kiki, with attempts.
There are a lot of consonants. And I have a code in my nose. I'm sorry, Daryl. Daryl, send me a pronunciation key, please, so I can get it right next time. Andrew Swanson.
I still can't pronounce Blair's last name. Still just taking a shot, different one every time.
Okay. Andrew Swanson, Paul Ronovich, Corinne Benton, Sue Doster, Dave Wilkinson, Ben Bignell, Richard Porter, Jacqueline Boyster, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zucknarak, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Sarah Chavez, Artyom, Rick Ramus, Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Suzuki, Jim Drapeau, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Ben Rothig, Steve Lesseman, Kurt Larson, Rudy Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert Greg Briggs, Brendan Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mark Hessenflow, Kevin Parachan, Byron Lee, and AEO. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. Really do appreciate it. If there's anyone else out there who is interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can head to TWIS.org and click on the Patreon link at the top of the page. Remember, you can also help us out by telling people about TWIS. It really does help. We would like to have more listeners. That would be great. And on next week's show, we'll be back Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, where you can join our chat room. And if you can't find our past episodes, don't worry. They are put on the internets for perpetuity, for posterity, for long times. You can find links to all that stuff at twis.org.
TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory, or if you have a mobile type device, you can simply look for TWIS, the number 4 Droid app in the Android marketplace, or This Week in Science in anything Apple marketplacey.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org. So you can go there, you can look over our predictions, keep track during the year, maybe place some bets, all that good stuff. Also, while you're there, you can make comments and start conversations with the hosts, hey, that's us, and other listeners.
Or you can skip the other listeners and contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminin@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in your subject line. Otherwise, you are likely to be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
All righty. We made it through an episode. Pretty exciting. And now I'm trying to figure out, I know there's a setting in Twitch that I want to make sure that I can, that it archives the videos, right? So that people can see the videos. I don't think I have that set
That's
right now.
important.
It is important, and I have to remember where it's hidden in the settings. I know it's somewhere. It's somewhere in here. But really, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on Twitch tonight. It was one of those what is going on kind of moments when Blair and I were on the phone going, I don't know why this isn't working. This isn't the right thing. I think YouTube is trying to push everyone to their new studio platform or the interface. Yeah, they've been calling it beta. They'll probably stop calling it beta when they push everyone over, but it looks like it does not include the Hangouts aspect. And so that's potentially a problem moving forward. So
I did, when I went to X out of the window, something popped up that was like, why are you leaving beta? And so I did put it in there. So maybe you'll get a response. We'll see. Yeah. I need multiple presenters and Hangouts isn't working with this.
Yeah, I mean the issue, we need multiple presenters. We need the Hangouts to do that. We can't just I don't know what they're thinking there. The issue with doing Twitch and focusing on Twitch is that if there are ever episodes when if YouTube gets rid of the Hangouts and makes it not work, I mean, I have to figure this out, because if YouTube stops their Hangouts, then that means any night that I'm not able to do the show, you won't be able to host it, because you won't have a way, unless you download OBS and learn how to use that, and then you can host, then you can invite Justin in, and look at that face.
I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. No, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm a little worried that my poor 2011 laptop will poop if I do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the laptop.
But it's, it's whatever needs to happen will happen. We'll figure it out. Maybe there's something else that can be done. Maybe somebody will expand into that space super fast if YouTube kills it.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm guessing it's a glitch with the beta. There's just like a button that's missing or something.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there is. Hopefully that's all it is, that there's a link missing, that they didn't set it up. But, something that we can consider doing. I mean, everybody seemed to really like, new laptop from Blair. We need a fundraiser.
Yikes, that's a high price tag.
Yeah. Yeah, we could work on that though. I don't know. You're going to, I mean, that laptop is going to die on you at some point, and you're going to need a new one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 2011. It's definitely like, it's not taking updates anymore. Like the last Apple software update I tried to put on it, it was like, ooh, your laptop's too old.
Yeah, I'm afraid of this laptop, whether or not it'll update. Don't put me in the old bin. But Gord says
it is colder than a well digger's ass outside.
What?
Oh my goodness!
Why are you going outside?
Because I had to take out the garbage.
Sure.
Gord says
a
he's
very
been
particular
regularly
piece of garbage.
And can give you OBS help if that ever works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna Google YouTube phasing out Hangouts. See what happens.
We're gonna. She's gonna.
Here we go. Okay, so it says,
well, like in 2016, they said they were going to phase it out, and I thought it was going to be just.
So this is December 3rd, 2018.
Okay.
Google Hangouts is getting phased out in chat overhaul. So that's just the chat.
That's just the chat, though.
Okay, let's see. Classic version of Google Hangouts is on the way out. The company might migrate consumers to a reworked version of the chat service.
So they're going to keep the chat and get rid of everything else. Wait, what? That's.
Oh, so they're making this new thing called Chat and Meet for the chatting part.
But that's not what that's not what we do. But YouTube live streaming. That's what need.
YouTube phasing out Hangouts live stream.
And it's also, as much as the quality is not the best quality, it is an easy interface. This is a much more complex interface to navigate. Not that I can't do it. It's just a little bit. I just need to practice. That's all. I can do it.
I don't know. There's not really. I can't really find anything.
It is always good to have several options, Ed. I know it's not. I don't think it was something. Oh no, I'll check it again tomorrow and see if it was just a today kind of thing. See if I can find it.
You know what? We're going to do the major overhaul update. We're going to wait till the next year. We'll do it on a Wednesday when nobody's using the service.
Right? Yeah. I think that. Yeah. Exactly.
Could just be.
We'll
We
do
pick
it
the most
Wednesday at
convenient
8
time
p.m.
for us all
Pacific
to
time.
get together when we don't have anything else going on. And it turns out that's also when
People don't
everybody
have
else
anything
doesn't have anything going on.
going.
Which also
Yeah.
makes it most.
I was going to say that
Actually,
I could,
I'm about to see a Google employee tomorrow. I'm going to ask him to. I'm going to
Look
ask
into
him
it.
about it.
Yeah, ask him about it. Well, if he knows anything, YouTube is kind of separate.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, it's a big company.
Yeah,
Yeah,
YouTube is its
he
own
definitely
thing.
is.
I work in
Who
the
do I-
warehouse. Mailroom.
I mean, I like
Mailroom is
Twitch.
a warehouse.
I like
To move
Twitch.
all
and
those emails around. They're very heavy. You don't really
There's this-
notice it when you send them. But
Everybody said they liked the audio and the video a lot more with
Oh.
Twitch. So they said it was smoother and sounded better with Twitch.
Mm.
They liked it. Everybody watching said it was better. They're like, yay! I like that. But the other question I can ask Tom Merritt because he uses Hangouts as well. And so if this is a thing, then it will affect him
Good
as well.
source.
He'll be on top of it.
Good source.
Mhm.
Yeah,
He'll be
we'll
the
get
guy.
Tom Merritt to go down there and give him a talking to. He'll fix it.
Yeah, for real.
Tom, can you
Yeah,
just
we
walk
just
over
have
to
to-
YouTube? Go take care of that.
If we
Yeah.
end up sticking with this, we just have to find if there's an auxiliary option for when you're not at home, or if I have to learn software, I'll just need time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta figure some things out.
It's not a
because
thing
there
I'll
are-
be able to learn at 7 for an 8 o'clock show.
No, not so much. Not so much. Oh, look. The Twitch audio. The Twitch audio is so good. The recording is picking up some fuzz noise on my mic now. Okay, I got to work on getting rid of my fuzz noise. All right. That's funny. Okay. You can add a filter. Yeah. If I record 10 seconds of room noise, then, which we've never done before, we can start making that part of the thing. Then we can remove the noise. Yeah. Okay, ready? Quiet now. I did a little bit longer just because. That's good, right?
So then the idea is you take that noise and you loop it behind all the audio? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the noise only happens when I talk. Of course it does. That's
Yeah.
because I've got rasping happening. No.
But if you loop it behind, it's as though it never happens. It's just becomes the room that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
So what
kinda
you do
sounds
is
like,
you take
a snare, like when there's ambient noise in a room
Mhm.
and there's a snare drum in it and there's just a little bit of a rattling in the background.
okay. Yeah.
So
Is that
if-
a relatable analogy?
no, not at all. It's totally different. So the sound guys
Noodles, I am.
on any time that you're filming in a spot, there's a point where the sound guys tell everybody to shut the heck up, and they put their mics up, and it's just like a moment of silence, like somebody is just died on set, and they hold the mics up in the room and they let it run for a good minute or two. And what they're doing is they're finding a consistent noise background sound that they're going to run along behind all of the dialogue. Because when you edit the dialogue, one person is talking here, one person is talking there, but those could have been hours apart, and the room noise could have changed a bit. You might have been shooting some of this or doing some of this in studio mic, but if you have that background of the room sort of white noise that's very hardly audible running between all of it, you won't hear clips between the edited recordings later. And sometimes when mics are on, they change the sound of the room versus when they're not being talked into. And so having that ambient background sound running behind everything smooths it out. So it all feels like the same room, even if some of it's in the studio, some of it was on location, some of it was in a different location, some of it was a different time of day. It doesn't matter. It all blends beautifully together.
Yeah. That's if you have very nice, expensive audio post-production software. Very nice.
Or you could just, you don't even need expensive post-production software. The cheapest software out there available, you can take white noise, that minute or two of white noise, loop it, so it just keeps playing it over and over again, and you play it behind the entire time.
It's really, yes, I understand what you're talking about. That's absolutely fantastic. That what most people do is they, instead of putting noise in, they remove it. I mean, you can do both, but yeah.
Well,
when you do the silence, what it does is it picks up all the background noise, and then you do a filter that recognizes all the background noise that sounds like that throughout the file, and it gets rid of it.
Right, but if it's not the same noise throughout the entire file, and you've edited it all, or again, sometimes when mics are on or off, there's a different background. But if you have that behind everything, even after then you can actually filter, and you won't have these disjointed bits that you would have if you didn't do that. And it's pretty low tech. It's
white noise, cover up the transitions.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
All right, we've got Fada saying goodnight. We had a couple of other people over there saying goodnight. Eric and AK gave an earthquake update in the chat room, saying they are somewhere above 6,000 aftershocks from the quake on November 30th. What? Wow. They range from magnitude 2 to 5.
That's pretty big for an aftershock.
That's really big for an aftershock. I mean, 2 is like, but when 5, that's really noticeable. Especially depending on where it is. And yeah, Eric says, I, for one, am getting tired of them. I can absolutely understand that. Well, let's just hope they stay at that low level and don't go big again, and that they rumble away. Just go away. There was an article out in the last week that I didn't get to talk about on the show, that, you know how we've talked before about nobody finding a link between earthquakes and volcanic activity? There seems to be some kind of a link on a much longer time scale than had been noticed before.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So there is a link, just not one that you can go, there's earthquakes, the volcano's going to erupt. It doesn't work like that.
I'm skeptical. Having not seen any of the data, so I'm completely skeptical.
Be skeptical until you read the article. Yes.
I know. It's just that, like, large time scales. Usually when this volcano erupts, within 10,000 years, there's a significant earthquake. Like, no, you've just pulled the focus back to the point.
It becomes very correlative, if nothing else. Yeah.
It becomes like the white noise behind the transitions. It's just smoothing stuff out, not necessarily adding any definition. All right. I think it's time to say goodnight, Blair.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Is there anything wait 1 second. Let me just use my slow brain to think if there's I don't think there's nothing that we as a team need to talk about for the next week. No,
we're starting business as usual next week.
Well, I'm starting business as usual today.
Yeah.
With the show. And then tomorrow I'll publish the show. And the podcast will come out, and then what will I do? And then I'll do some other things.
There's a very small chance that next week, by the time we are doing the show, I will have purchased a 30-foot bus.
Really? You are moving on that idea. Okay.
I'm heading to an auction in which there's a 30-foot, two almost identical 30-foot. Well, the buses are identical. They have different miles on them. But they're bigger than I was thinking of, but are set up perfectly for what I want. So I don't know. I will see where the bidding goes. I probably am going to get outbid pretty quickly. For whatever.
Well, I look forward to seeing the pictures on social media if you purchase.
I know. If you
Oh
do.
yeah, it'll be me in front of a tow truck getting the thing taken into storage, going, "I bought a bus that I'm towing to storage right away." This is kind of. We'll see. We'll see how
Oh
it
my
turns out.
goodness. All right. It is 11 o'clock. That sounds like we're late tonight, everyone. Sorry we're so late, but we started late. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I found
Good
this
night,
setting.
Blair. Say good night, Justin. Oh, okay.
I was going to say I found this
No,
setting.
Kiki, by all means, be the one who keeps the show going even later. By all means.
I was going to say I found the setting. Our show is being recorded. It will be on Twitch for 14 days, so people will be able to watch it or download it from Twitch. At least they should be.
Will you be able to download it and put it on YouTube? Is that a thing you can do?
Uh-huh.
Ah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
People will still know where to find us.
Yeah. So that is something that I'll have to do tomorrow. Yes.
You do have to learn how to screen share live because a couple times when you tried, it cut off the audio, and that was
weird. Yeah. That's something I need to work on. I know there's there's an audio setting somewhere for the transition so that the speaker doesn't get muted when the transition happens. Yeah, but I have to find it. I don't know where it is. And in the middle of the show, when I was trying to hear you guys and talk and listen and press the buttons, I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Who knows? Maybe we'll be on YouTube next week. Maybe we'll be back on Twitch.
Yeah. Stay tuned, I guess.
Stay tuned.
Wait, they can't stay tuned because we're about to go off the air.
To
no, just stay tuned to the channels.
Stay tuned to the channel.
But, but the channel ends when we end the broadcast, doesn't
No,
it?
they can watch old episodes. They can watch this channel forever.
But it's Twitch. How can you watch a Twitch forever?
There's a couple. There's at least like 5 or 6 in there. I feel like it's enough to get them through the night.
I don't know. I've never done that before. Okay.
All right, now say the good night.
Good night, Blair. Say good night, Justin.
Good night, Justin. Good night.
Good night, Kiki.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year.